That's not
They're upstairs.
She was in front. Maybe that's why. That's not
We will.
Okay, now we have to sign it.
We're waiting for the last commissioner to come.
August traffic.
I thought I saw Vinny coming.
No, we all made it, didn't we?
Okay, yeah. I thought I saw her come in.
Well, then there has to be a spot.
Yes, here she
There's
comes.
a parking spot.
Oh.
All right, you made it.
Apologies to all. It's Alexa's fault.
Alexis. All right, we are established. I will call the meeting to order of the Land Bank, and we will start the session today with public input. I know there are a number of you all here who have something to say and present to us, so do you want to start?
Yeah, hi, thank you.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, we all got copies of your letter and the drawings.
Yeah.
If anyone needs a copy, I have
Well,
one for
I just
everyone.
like the
Thank
map.
you now, yeah, for the
Lay a
map.
few maps out. I did
Certainly.
make a copy of
Anyone else?
No, I don't like,
that. You did the maps. Okay.
Wow, well, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, Madam Chairwoman, Commissioners, Executive Director. Thank you for welcoming us once again for another productive meeting, I hope. So I want to start off by saying that the Land Bank has done a wonderful job on Martha's Vineyard. But as you know, in this case, we believe you made a mistake. Fortunately, we, the friends of Tradewinds, believe it can be fixed. One reason I know it can be fixed is that in the past, you have considered community concerns and not exclusively ecology. I have heard so many sad stories, and I know you have too. There. And I'm hoping you really consider our community, you consider our proposals, and you make the appropriate changes. Overall, you'll find our proposal has been very mindful of the sensitive nature of the plants you've identified and from the map that was submitted to National Heritage. So I'll start going through the major recommendations. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. First one is to move the new trail by County Road back from the road to where the original trail and path was. Any questions on that? Any questions? No? Okay. We also...
Bill, could you just expand maybe a little bit that why we want that?
Um,
The ways,
The rationale for the
is it, okay?
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
a well-thought
Yeah,
out.
what's this address?
I'm just gonna interject here. We'll let Phil talk, and if anybody else, we'll try not to have a back and forth too much between us right now. Let's let him make the presentation, and we all have have gotten that, as Pam said, and read it over, looked at the map. So go ahead, if there's things you want to add later, we'll state your name and you're welcome to add whatever to Phil's presentation you want.
Well, you've read it. We are very interested in, so the crossover actually, not going back to moving the gate from the road. We're saying keep the gate there. So I'm not sure if that was clear. This is an interim proposal that we think we could easily accomplish. That's why it was made. We're going to designate the 2 crossover paths and install 3 gates to facilitate the 2 crossovers. We're recommending opening up the Hart Haven end of the runway by removing the fence, allowing an alternative to the mandated wooden path up the side of the runway. And we're recommending you remove the fence starting from the exit of the woods on the Hart Haven side to the steel pipe by the big tree. So I really need a reaction from you guys, or a question, or can you give me any input on what you're thinking, or what we may have missed here that's not appropriate.
Well, let me ask the committee members, if Pam, if Wes, if anyone has any comments at this point.
No, we get it.
We're, okay.
Okay, so,
The map is very clear,
okay.
so it's easy to read.
All right, thank you. So the 2 species which were identified by Julie, they do have status on the, as you know, you've been telling us, they have status on the National Heritage Endangered Species Program. We know the ladder, the hierarchy of status is none, no status, special concern, threatened, or endangered. So these are the lowest on the ladder, but they're still on the ladder of concern, as the 2 plants that were outlined on the map that was submitted to approve the fence with National Heritage. So I just wanted to be clear with that. You've also were very clear on the 2 signs that are still up at Tradewinds, that the greatest threat to the Sandplain Rescue Zone is boots and shoes. Animals such as dogs pose little or no threat. So we like that you wrote that, and it's still posted, and we appreciate that. And that would be, that would play into the crossover paths, where the users would walk on and stay on the path, which we also offer to self-police. So that is another component of our recommendation. So if you were to agree to what we're proposing, we would make sure that it certainly happened the way we're saying it's going to happen. So let's do a little math, which is what I love to do. And there is 29.8 acres of sandplain grassland. If we were to put a crossover path, say it was 200 feet, both paths together by 10 foot wide, of the sandplain grassland, that would only come to not even 1%, but 0.15% of the entire sand plain grassland. If we were to move back the fence from County Road, say, we just estimate a 300 by 400 foot section, that's another 1% of the sand plain grassland. But if you remember that portion by County Road are very defined paths, so really I wouldn't say more than 1/3% would really be stepped on or used getting from the road to the original path, not around the hangar. And then also, if you were to open up the Hart Haven side, and once again, do a big swatch of rectangle, thinking that all that fencing comes down, and the fencing by the pitch pines, that is really maybe 1%, and we're really talking about 1.5% we may impact with this proposal of the 30 acres. Okay, and remember, as you know, this is a 71.8 acre or 9 acre property. So what I learned, something you'd like to know, that this can easily be done, but I'll pose a rhetorical question. Is there a way, saying it's 1%, 1.5%, 3% of the whole place, and you have 40 other acres there. So in your wisdom and ability, that should be something easy to do.
I do know the answer to that one, because I'd asked that question earlier, and the pitch pines are also endangered. There's an endangered moth in the pines, and we can't touch them.
So was that?
That's true on other properties too, we've had.
So was that known when the fence idea was submitted?
Yes.
Okay, because it wasn't put on the map, that was submitted with the fence. Okay, well, as you...
It's an interesting, but I did ask
But
that earlier.
there's not only pitch pines there are mixed oak there. So I'll rephrase my question. Is there a way to give us what we want in our proposal and satisfy your obligation with the Heritage Program, and mitigate this by doing something in part of the mixed oak woodland?
Referring to the staff.
Yeah, we'll take that under advisement.
Yeah,
That's one of the things we definitely would talk with our biologist about and botanist.
That's not
about.
nice.
Is that what you were?
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say, is that I would want to have Julie take a put on there.
It usually the biologist doesn't need to attend a meeting or...
I mean, I think even if staff were here right now, these kinds of questions would have to be investigated and.
It would probably have to require some research.
And researched and, so we wouldn't have an immediate answer this time.
So here is one section of, we're recommending a crossover. I took a nice picture of that one day. So that's,
Phil, do you still want to keep going, or do you want anybody else from your group to, other people? We certainly want to let other people have a chance to speak, unless you are the spokesperson, which is fine.
I'm serving as that now, but I could, we could.
I mean, I just have a question.
If you want to, we're happy to just state your name and then your question and/or your statement. We may not be able to answer
Yeah, no, you
questions
probably can't,
exactly,
because
but
it's really
state
for
your.
the botanist or whatever.
Right.
But if I ask it, is there a way?
Yes, Jane, we'll take
We'll
down.
make note of it.
We will absolutely
Okay.
take the questions, and we will get to our staff and.
Okay, so my name's Martha Klein. I live at 2 Young Street in Katima. My question was, the fact that, this is the first time hearing about the moth, or I don't know how many other people have heard about the moth. And it seems that, the fence is new, and the dogs and the people coexisted there for many, many, many years. So these things propagated and happened with all of that going on. So what's to say that taking all of that away, like they're there, they were there, were they there before? Did they just get discovered? So maybe they're there because of what was going on, as opposed to, I'm just saying, it's all of a sudden, it's like all these things happen, but that was when everything was the way it was. So that's where I get confused about why the fence went up, because that stuff was all growing and in spite of the activity. And yes, it definitely should be curtailed, and I think everyone respects the land and respects you guys and me. But I'm just curious, so I'd love the botanist to answer that. Like,
About the timeline.
yeah, like the
Well-
moths are there, well, they probably were there when the people were,
I want to chime in about the,
Flood fence.
I want to chime in about the fence around the hangar and that heatland area. And the good news I've discovered in doing my research is that the bushy rock rose, which had status on that hierarchy, has been and would have been found in that area, has been taken off the designation list. So that is, none of us knows the rationale for pushing that that fence to the road.
So that's a question for us to write down.
Yeah, we'll ask, we'll talk about that.
Because, okay. So are you curious about anything I've said, particularly that you have used not strict letter to the law, subjective, from the heart type of statements and reasons to buy land or purchase land? For instance, sorry, James, but in the press on the recent purchase of the land in the Wapatika Preserve near the Sailors' Burial Grounds, there were something to the effect that, Mr. Langell was saying, if they build a house on the property, the feeling of the cemetery wouldn't be the same. It was in 2 papers. It wasn't a law or ecology. You were buying land for a nice community reason. And in one case, another commissioner, when we got the 2014 executive meeting minutes, session minutes, one commissioner actually said about the Coopersmith development, and it's in the minutes, let's help the town of Oak Bluffs get out of this mess. So, there are other factors that come into play with a preserve. And one part, what I'm saying is the community and the towns we live in, and this is in Oak Bluffs. And it is so widely used and so appreciated and so beloved that what you did is being seen as very mean and very pushing people away. And the last thing I'm going to say are these are all good people. I challenge you to look at one suspect of vandalism or anything on a 2.5-mile fence. None of that has happened. We are your friends and neighbors.
James, you might want to have it, but I just want to say that I haven't been here as long as some of these other members, but every property that I go to that the land bank has owned and purchased, whether a long time or in short time, is very, very unique. Everyone is sort of unique and to its own characteristics. So in terms of Tradewinds, that's the same situation. It's a unique property and one I know that, I mean, it's obvious how strongly you all feel about it. And it has its own unique scientific, biologic qualities, and that's why we rely heavily on natural heritage and our staff to investigate the necessary things on the property that there are there to protect. Now with the woman in the front row, you had a question.
Oh, I did.
You did
I did. I had a question.
I don't want to, if you just state
Well,
your name and.
Hi, Beth O'Connor, Edgartown. And one of my questions is this. So you have two signs up there. And one's about boots, one's about in shoes, right? And one's about animals. So we're in this hierarchy, this airplane, 2-ton airplanes landing on the floor fit. Where does that fit on those signs? Because it seems like if boots and shoes are a threat, I would think very large 2-ton airplanes landing on those very planes would be somewhat more destructive. So what is their ruling on the airplanes landing compared to our boots on there?
James, can you give a
We've
history?
answered it before, do you want to answer it
Do you want to
again?
answer the history of the plane?
The answer is the pounding. When boots hit the ground, they pound because they're repeatedly passing in the same place. They pound and they pound and they pound. But an airplane occasionally landing on the grass does not do that. It's so infrequent that it doesn't harm the resource.
Okay, so what's the, okay, so can we just, so my,
Pressure per inch was
the pressure per inch?
That's right,
Well, that's,
So-
that's a scientific way of saying pounding.
yeah.
And you know what, I can understand pressure per inch.
There we go.
So, my question back on that is, do they have a ruling on, because there's, 83 permits that are allowed? So they could give out permits, right? Like, really technically, you could have 83 planes landing there at any time, is that correct?
There are 17 permits that are allowed.
17 total permits?
That's correct.
And could those 17 aircraft come and go at will?
Yes.
Okay, so 17 permits allowed, come and going as will. And do they have an actual ruling on the fact that 17 planes could be landing there every single day compared to the occasional person meandering off of the path to get to their dog? Like, and having gone there for years, not seeing too many people on the middle, right? We all hang out on the edge. Our dogs don't. That's where they have fun. But but they're the ones that are the least threat. So I just want to understand their exact ruling on 17 aircraft with permits being able to land there every single day, and what the tonnage is, and rolling down right over those grass. That I'm sorry, but I weigh a lot less than that airplane, right? So I would like an official
I don't
ruling.
know that we have
Okay.
the actual, James, why don't you address
And
that?
how about the machinery that constantly rolls over to mow the grass?
But no, I think I'd like the National Heritage's ruling. You understand what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
they're
that
the
would
ones that
be
are
in the
ruling about our
report.
fees.
Julie will know if that's addressed.
I forgot to point one thing out. I have other things to add, but the main thing I wanted to point out right now, you see where the yellow is, removing the fence? And this map is incorrect because you are not mowing this quadrant here. This continuation of the taxiway. So you have chosen not to manage this with the mowing. So that, again, so this is all filled in. It looks an overhead shot. would show all vegetation by that curved yellow.
Okay.
That's all filled in now, and that is one of the areas where we believe a fence should be removed. The other area, with the yellow is the pitch pine, obviously, and then the mandated path into the woods. So, directing walkers through the forest trail is not friendly to users, especially seniors, the elderly, and the physically challenged. In addition, many women who use Tradewinds are uncomfortable walking alone in the forested trail that comes out on the county roadside. So that's very important to restate.
There are a few more people behind you, Bill, that want to speak. Should I take them? Sir, would you just state your name?
Norman Axelrod, No Bluffs.
Okay.
First, I want to also say I endorse this proposal, but I want to go back a little bit and say that I think that the land bank, as I understand it, I've only lived in that area for 18 years. I live in Torneck, so I use that area a lot. And I have seen why the signs have not gotten the response that I think the land bank hoped before they went to the choice of putting up this very restrictive barrier. And on the other side, I think I've seen where the group used to meet in the middle, and I'm not talking about endangered species here, I'm just talking about the grasslands as a whole, and it changed the grasslands and destroyed the grasslands. But when the land bank came and asked this group to go off to the side, I've seen dramatic improvement already. That I've seen improvement every time. And that the jump to get a 2.5-mile fence from where we were feels a little more radical than I would have hoped. And the proposal supports, I believe, the concept that we need to continue to make progress in that land, in the sand plains. We recognize that as a group. And that's why there isn't a proposal in front of you to take down the fence totally. That once you lock off 2/3 of the area, there is no legitimate reason other than climbing the fence to go into the middle, other than for the occasional dog. And I believe that we can work with you and get a high 95, 98% compliance, where before you weren't getting that kind of compliance into, not the endangered species, the wholesale area. And I'd suggest to you that there are 3 main reasons that we can still work together and make some compromise, and we're asking you to make some changes that will accomplish your goal of protecting the area and will allow us to not feel it has changed so dramatically. I don't know that I would have bought my house in Torneck. I thought that was one of the most important things for me when I bought, and I'm a very big taxpayer in that area. But in doing it, there were 3 things, and they affect me, quite frankly, personally less. I just believe in the cause. That the first thing to me is safety. I have had walks with women who will turn around and not go into the field because they are concerned without having me there as to what they will walk into, where before they felt perfectly safe. There was a shorter path than 2.5 miles for the elderly. And by putting those 2 gates in that we're asking you to consider, the path now becomes much more usable for the elderly. And then there's a community aspect to all of this, that I met people. I don't get to meet everyone. I'm a seasonal resident. I don't get to meet everybody. But I'll bet you I've met every one of these people, and those relationships are important to me. So when I look at this, if we can work with you and accomplish the goal of keeping people off the sand plains, no matter endangered or not endangered, to work together with the same common goal, stay off of those sand plains, let them restore themselves. They have made enormous progress, which we have pictures of, in that middle ground area where this group used to meet. And quite frankly, you were right. And I think everybody respects the decision to move off to the side. But if you keep up, what I'm going to say is probably 2/3 of the fencing and open up 1/3 of the fencing, that compromise will enable us to enjoy it at a level that hopefully one day you'll be able to say we can take down the whole fencing. But I know that that's not where I am today, and that's why the proposal is not to take down the whole fence. But for community, for elderly, and for safety reasons, and still to respect your request that we respect the sand plane, I believe with self-policing, we can get and make all the things you want happen. If you would work with us, I think that this community will respect that decision also. So that's my whole, that's my whole speech to you.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to state your name and?
My name is Rose Cecil, and I just had a little personal story that I wanted to relay about why I think the two paths would be so important for us to have, the two cutoffs that Phil talked about. So we can, as you know, NAM is a 2.5 acre fence, and I was walking my small dogs and tried to do the whole thing, and I fell by the golf course, and it's not a big deal. I'm an agile person, but I thought, what if I fell and nobody would come? There's no way I can go back. I can't cross the field to where the other people are. And it occurred to me that this was a really creepy situation, potentially, you know, to be in, to not be able to get, you cannot get through the fence, and I couldn't get through. You know, I couldn't climb it, I'm not that agile. And so that's why I think if we could just have those two areas of paths where we could cross through, and we would take, you know, enormous respect in the fields, because we really do love it there. And I've gone there for 8 years, and I just think it's a wonderful place. But the idea of like having it be so inaccessible now is just so, it's just so hostile to us, I think. But thank you for listening to me.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
My name is Ann Bennett, and I'm not making any comments about the fence. I'm asking, I don't know who I asked, James, there seemed to have been an issue with the dog waste containers not being picked up. And the one, I wish I'd taken a picture of it, I don't know if anybody did, the one at the entryway going in to go towards Farm Neck Road, I mean, it was full. It wasn't full. There was tons on the ground, and our
All weekend.
all weekend. And our wonderful Celia, she got a big trash bag, and it's very heavy. She couldn't do anything with it, and cleaned it all up. So I don't know what's happened to that part of it.
I did,
Did you report it to James?
yeah, Thursday, it was full Thursday, so.
What it's reminding me of is when the land bank used to have a barrel for rubbish at Moshe Beach, and then we had to go 4 times a day to empty it, and eventually had to discontinue it entirely because the land bank is not in the trash removal service. And so it's possible that the land bank will not be able to continue offering that service, and we're going to have to ask dog walkers to clean up after themselves.
Well, that's fine, but
Yeah,
we
that's
need to
fine.
know
That's
that.
new anyway.
You know, either
it before.
Yeah.
they're there.
So, can I chime in on this one? Because I wasn't really gonna throw someone under the bus here, but I've documented that particular trash barrel the day it was full, and there were 3 guys working in the field, and I have photos of those guys.
They were supposed to pick it up.
And I notified the manager, and they didn't pick it up. So I have 5 successive days thinking that, oh, it's going to get done. I was told it's on a 10-day cycle, the waste removal. You know, we used to have, I don't know, I mean, that's what I was told, but you can't, I wrote to him, I said, what is the land bank, what message are you trying to send us? Because to me, it seemed like there was an unwritten message that we would get, the way the hostility has been, that what is the point here of purposely not doing this?
I don't think it's right. I think it's probably an overload of maybe, they should have done it, and James will check on it. But I know let me just say this, I'm up island, and I know I've had to call when stuff has not been mowed as promptly as I'd like to see on some of our trails. So it is a matter of having enough bodies to do the work and to get it all done, but I'm not familiar with this particular situation, but if we are going to pick up trash and commit to doing it, then we need to do it. If it gets overwhelming where we just can't afford the labor to be doing it, then we'll have to say that, but I mean, we need to do it.
Summer's almost over. I mean,
Right.
you're, oh, sorry.
There's a different season.
Yes, please state your name and then.
Celia Gillis, Oak Bluff. I just want to add to that, I mean, obviously there's, the traffic in there is, you know, increased in the summertime, and there's so many more people walking their dogs in there that are, you know, used to parks off island that have this sort of receptacle for, you know, and so there's an expectation there that it will get picked up. But I think if, you know, if it came to the point where we had to do some of that legwork, that, like, it was, I appreciate it because it was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever had to do in my life, and, you know, I'm a nurse by, you know, so it was, I appreciate that they do it. When it gets to that point, it's beyond, you know, it's out of anybody's, you know, job description to have to do that. So I think, you know, if it's a matter of us bringing the bags to like a central, I mean, I walk there twice a day. Our current trails, when they were brush cut, they were fine, but now all the stumps and roots are growing up. And I've watched multiple people trip, cut their legs, because you can't see them, because they're covered, you know, with mulch. Yeah, and so you don't notice them. And when you do trip on them, it's a really nasty fall. So if these current trails are gonna be what we're expected to use, I really would love for them to be brush cut again, or have those roots picked up, because they're very dangerous.
Okay, thank you. I too walk on trails where the roots do get, I mean, in Chilmark, there are a number of paths where you really do have to be careful. But also I wonder if, because it's a new trail, and hopefully the continued good maintenance of it, will address and use of it will address some of those roots that haven't been completely wiped out.
I mean, I've seen workers inside the fence multiple times, but I haven't really noticed any more work being done on the outside trails. But
a few more questions. Okay, I want to give everybody a chance to talk, but
I just had one really quick observation. Having never been to one of these meetings, I've never been to anything. But the group raised a question about the trash, right? That situation. And the first, I don't even know what is this a...
How do you do? My name is James Langell.
Like, the immediate reaction was, okay, then we'll take it away.
Well,
like, you don't say like, no, I'm just saying from what we heard, our perspective was, you know, it's like, oh, you're lucky to have it, we'll take it. I don't know how you guys felt. I'm just saying, like, I'm just giving you an observation.
That's how you feel.
And that's a little bit of the whole fence situation, right?
That's how you feel, and I don't think that's how, hopefully that's not how it was.
We all heard it. Okay, so just saying.
My point was just that we'll do what we can and get it taken care of. And if, in fact, in some of these summers, it becomes overwhelming for the land bank and we can't do it anymore, then we'd have to talk, you know, then we'd have to stop doing it.
But your job wasn't being done properly.
For sure.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm just giving you an observation.
Yes.
That's actually what he said.
Name?
You know how overwhelming summers can be.
Believe you.
I'm Robin Gottesman. I'm a seasonal in Oak Bluffs, but we've been coming here since the 80s, actually the late 70s. And when we bought our home, I was thrilled to pay 2% to the land bank. I think what you do separates Martha's Vineyard from, I'm from New Jersey, and it doesn't look like the Jersey Shore for the work you do. So thank you. But if somebody said to me, what are the 3 best things about Martha's Vineyard to you, probably number 2 would have been that dog field. I have never seen such community. People just coming together who are strangers, walking the same time every day, getting to know each other, caring for each other. Are you okay? So-and-so wasn't here today. Is she okay? Leaving bones for dogs. Oh, I don't have a bag. You don't have a bag. Take my bag. I mean, maybe you don't realize, but that is something that I have never seen anywhere in the world. And I walk my dogs a lot. I have two large dogs. I just think that there could have been a lot more input from the users of that field to make it work for everybody. Everybody loves that field. Nobody's looking to hurt it. And honestly, it's like, I feel like you didn't know what you had and it was taken away.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can put it.
Thanks.
Could I,
Thank you. What, yeah, a
make
couple
one
more,
point?
would you make your point?
Yeah, John Crosby, I would suggest, as you had an aeronautical commission that made one meeting, there was a whole genesis of the fence, it met May 15th of last year. The next week, they had a 3-to-1 vote in Oak Bluffs on the recommendation of this aeronautical committee that met once. They had 3 recommendations. Next week, on the vote of the aeronautical committee, you had a meeting to put the fence up, 3-to-1 for a $20,000 fence. I would like to see you have a Tradeswind committee here, Friends of Tradeswind, made up of Oak Bluffs residents, work with this committee and try to, an official committee recognized by the commission, and try to straighten this mess out, because it's just terrible. I mean, I saw, you know, like you're saying, people could die over there if you know, someone with a heart condition, and this heat is out there, has a heart attack, they could die. It's not right. It's not
So let me
necessary.
I'll sum up. Can we expect you to act on this today?
We can't act on it today, but we're going to take some action in terms of how we want to proceed. And so we'll be, I mean, for one, let me just say, I've been there several times, but I have not been there since the fence went up. So I personally am going to go, now I'm a walker, I'm a biker, I'm a this, I'm a, but, so, and I do a lot of that elsewhere, but I don't do my walks around here. I live in Aquina. So I for one want to go and get a sense of the difference now.
Thank you.
And I think other members are probably going to feel the same way, those that can get there and can walk around. We want to, and so I think that we need to.
I've been there several times.
And Pam, yeah, Pam, you go ahead if you have. Pam, do you have any comments from your recent time there? So some of us have been there more than others. The other thing that I think is important for us to do now is, James has written a lot down. We want to be able to give these concerns to our staff and take everything you've said under advisement and let our staff come back with their recommendations too. And then we, after all of us having been there, can talk with our staff about what they would conclude from your ideas.
Would it be fair to say you usually meet on a weekly or 2-week rotation, and that maybe something could happen in a specific time frame where the information we would know?
It's August. We always meet on a regular basis, but it's not every Monday. And sometimes we have a hard time getting a quorum. But we will be meeting on a regular basis.
Would it be fair to say that you could call
Bill.
and I just lost, sorry.
You mean Maureen?
Maureen.
You mean call and...
Have the office contact him.
Contact him if it's when it goes on the agenda for the agenda.
Absolutely.
So, but in the meantime, we have to keep doing what we're doing, which has been, you may have noticed, you know, asking why the fence.
I want to know if you have signed permits.
No, neither do the politicians, so we are going on.
Those are probably legal.
But they are on all private property of homeowners, and in one town, they actually have a 20-inch by 20-inch.
I want you to check the Oak Bluff sign bylaw.
I have.
Not too, okay.
I have.
That's what I'm asking.
I have,
That's
believe me, I have, and,
Didn't want you to get in trouble with WTF sign.
and, so wouldn't it be great if we could put a giant bumper sticker on there that can be read and say, you know, thank you Land Bank for listening, and they all become a magical, billboard of how great, the Land Bank is.
Okay, one more comment, and then I'm going to close to the public, okay? Yes.
My name is Rita Brown. So a couple of comments. One is that I think it's absolutely the thing to do to talk to your staff. They, however, work for you. And all of you are represented from various towns. Each one of the towns has land bank people represented from different disciplines of the town. I would hope that you might, even though this property isn't Oak Bluffs, a lot of us are from Megatown, a lot of us are from other towns that utilize this property, and that utilize properties all over the island. And I think that goes without saying. So, the other thing I wanted to say is, in your own plans, you talk about every group deserves special place. And we would like to hope that you might consider this.
Thank you, thank you. All right, I would return to regular order of business. And thank you all. We still have a little bit of business in open session. Y'all can always stay.
I'd like to make a comment.
Hold on one second.
I'm impressed with the amount of homework you've done.
Yeah.
Were you a school teacher?
Yes.
Well, good job.
Thank you.
I would also like to congratulate whoever came up with the marketing, because it's very clever.
I love this teacher.
Bill, you did the WPA.
Well, we in consultation with a lot of people.
A friend of mine Casey, somebody must know Casey. Casey said, she said, what the fence, what the fence, and then I sent that to Phil, wouldn't it be funny, and he changed it to why the fence.
Thank you.
But she was the catalyst, but she didn't know it, she was just replying to a text from me, being funny.
I just want to say, I know you did it.
Thank you, Kat.